Good afternoon again. Our next episode is featuring Mr. Borko Hanjiski, Associate Partner with McKinsey & Co. Borko is a seasoned economist. He joined McKinsey & Company after over 7 years with the World Bank. Well, while waiting for Borko to join us for this session, we're facing some technical challenges in connection. Wanted to share some recent fact by the World Economic Forum in preparation for our session. Now, 97 million new job roles will be created in 5 years. Also, by the year 2025, 44% of the skills that employees will need to perform their roles effectively are going to change. On the other hand, 72% of youth in MENA region say that the COVID-19 outbreak has made finding a new job more difficult. We all agree that COVID-19 has accelerated the digital transformation and is changing the nature of work. While these changes have disrupted the global economy, they may also bring unexpected opportunities. Having said that, I will give the floor to Borko to tell us more about the challenges and opportunities for youth in the MENA labor market. Is Borko with us? We ask the audience to stay tuned with us. Okay. Amazing. Welcome, Borko.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here today.
How are you?
I am good. Apologies for the bit of a technical hiccup at the beginning, but hope everybody can see me, hear me, and look forward to having this hopefully for all of you, very important conversation about the future of the labor market in the region and what that means for you as future labor market entrants.
Amazing. We're glad to have you with us. And I will leave the floor to you to discuss and present to us the challenges and opportunities for youth in the MENA labor market. The floor is yours, Borko. Thank you.
Thank you, Razan. Pleasure to be here today. So my name is Borko Hanjiski, Associate Partner with McKinsey. For the past 6 years, I've spent in the region doing economic development work, including related to labor markets. And I'm very happy to be given the opportunity to speak to you today, to share our thinking on the topic and also to hear from you and have a discussion around what are the key things on your mind when you think about the start of your professional careers. So I'll start with a brief presentation that talks about, gives an overview of the labor market, especially with a forward-looking perspective, given that that's what's most important, and given the moment we are in today, not just in the region, but worldwide, where we are at an inception point in terms of the shift in how labor markets will operate due to the recent and future technological innovations that will have implications on practically every occupation. So I'll talk about 3 things. I'll talk about just starting with a brief overview of the labor market, then talking about what are the disruptions, and then what are the opportunities and what does this mean for the youth and for all those entering the labor market. And then, of course, at the end, we'll be very keen to hear your questions and have a discussion on the topic. So let's start with the high-level overview. When we talk about MENA, what are we talking about? We are talking about 100 million youth in the entire region. And interestingly, one of the few regions in the world where youth makes up at least 50%, at least half of the total population. That's from a macroeconomic perspective, that's a great asset for any country, because youth are the most productive element of the labor force, and having this young population is basically a long-term dividend then the countries can reap on if they create the right opportunities for the youth. When we talk about now the right opportunities, the first one is about the access to education. And here we see that there is one weakness within the region about access to education. About 10 million children out of school, and college enrollment lower than what we would see in more developed countries. Then another element of creating the opportunities for the youth is about the quality of education, not just the access. And here what we see is that, at least based on surveys, the perceptions are that the quality of education that students receive is not in line with their expectations, or doesn't fully meet their expectations, meaning they don't feel that it will fully help them prepare for the future labor market. And finally, as I said, this is an asset if it's utilized, but if the youth is unemployed, which in a number of countries is the case, then it doesn't become, it's an asset that you don't reap, or it's a dividend you don't reap. On the contrary, it creates a lot of social challenges that governments need to deal with. And for some countries in the region, in the broader MENA region now we are talking, unemployment, especially unemployment for the youth, is an important challenge that needs to be solved. So now when we talk about the opportunities and creating the opportunities for people to find job, we see that there are a number of challenges in the MENA region around creating job opportunities. So the youth unemployment is, and unemployment in general in MENA region is higher than other parts of the world. We see youth and female unemployment as one of the key areas where the region falls behind. Also, another interesting feature of the region is lower than elsewhere participation in the labor market, where people who are able to work and of working age, they actually have given up on the labor market and decide not to work. That's also a missed opportunity for those economies. So we are starting on a note to say that there is a real challenge in the region, and there is something that needs to be done to ensure that the right opportunities are created. And this is on governments to do through appropriate policies and economic strategies. And we've seen a lot of big actions and announcements coming in several countries, at least where I work with, in this direction, basically creating the right opportunities for the youth and the number of jobs that is required. Maybe one, let's say, almost unique feature of the region, that just to show in numbers, is the low female participation. I do not see the audience during this event, unfortunately, but I really hope that there are a lot of females, and the numbers that we show here are not representative of the future of the labor market. And if we look at recent labor market entrants, we do see a much higher participation of the female labor force, which is a very important positive signal. So now let's talk about the big disruptions. What is it that makes today an inception point for the labor markets and for the labor markets globally, but also in MENA? So what we have at the moment is, of course, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis, which has been a health crisis, first of all, a social crisis, and an economic crisis. Now, this crisis has accelerated the pace and scale of automation that started even before COVID, and that is creating this inception point in labor markets. So what we have is, because of COVID, we have increased focus on remote work, increased focus on minimizing touch points, increased focus of minimizing the role of the human factor in production in order to be able to sustain production even in times such as curfews and basically shutdowns that happened because of COVID. And once these trends happen, then these trends then do not change back. So it only goes in one direction. So, and this we have observed even in previous crises that accelerated automation, that this then stays on even after the crisis and doesn't go back to the pre-crisis normal. So when we talk about automation, what does this really mean? What can we automate? So I'm sure you've read about this topic, and we see some big headlines in media and newspapers about these jobs are being replaced by robots, etc. We now, as our think tank, the McKinsey Global Institute, did a more thorough research to understand really what is being automatable. And the way we approached it is not to say what job is being automated, but which activities are being automated. So every job, meaning every occupation, performs a range of activities. Then we looked at what those activities are and which of those activities could be potentially automated. And what we found was very interesting. So first we found that almost no single job occupation can be fully automated. This is very unlikely. However, we see that a large share of tasks that occupations perform can be automated. And this is something that can range from, as I said, close to 100%, or more than 90% for occupations such as sewing machine operators or assembly line workers. These are easily, most of the tasks that the assembly line worker does are easily replaced by a machine. But then you have other jobs on the other extreme, jobs like legislators, psychiatrists, where 90% of their tasks cannot be replaced by an existing, as of today, an existing technology. Yes, maybe some of the tasks can be replaced. I don't know, something related to how they write reports, etc. But the core of their work does not get replaced. So we see that most jobs or most occupations are somewhere in the middle. Significant share of what they do can be replaced, but not necessarily all of it. What does this mean? This means that it's not so much that occupations will shift or change and disappear. It's more that the way the work is done will change, and the total number of people required for those occupations will change by, let's say, reducing the number of tasks that they currently do and spending more time on the tasks that cannot be automated. So if we look at the automation potential across countries, we see that it's quite similar across both developed and developing countries. So automation is not a problem only for advanced economies. Automation is something that will happen across all economies, advanced and developing alike, which means the MENA region would also be affected by automation in a similar way as the more advanced economies. And see here on the left-hand side of the chart, you see that the automation potential, the technical automation potential, what could technically be replaced by a machine or AI in many of the MENA countries, it's very similar as in the most advanced economies. So now, what does this mean in terms of what do people do in the future? So what we see is, based on analysis that we did now in advanced economies, but again, the findings should not be too different, we see that in the future, people, meaning employees, will spend less time doing physical and manual work, less time using their basic cognitive skills. This could be, you see here, basically by 2030, that the number of hours doing these types of activities will be about 15% less. At the same time, employees in the future are expected to spend more time on tasks that involve higher cognitive skills, even more time on tasks that involve social and emotional skills, and more than 50% more time on tasks that involve technological skills. Because some things will be automated, workers will need to be better and spend more time on working with those, be it machine or software or AI. So here we did some research for the US, and the trends that I mentioned earlier about the future are trends that have already started. We went back to 2002 and then looking forward to 2030, and what we see that in most cases, the trends that we observed and I just shared on the previous slide were some things that were happening over the past decade and a half. So, because, as I said, the number of the types of activities and occupation thus will change, because some parts will be automated, the total number of hours worked and the total number of jobs will also shift because of this shift in the nature of the roles. So what does that mean? That means in total there will be number of occupations that will grow significantly, and then there will be number of occupations that will decline in terms of the number of people in that occupation. So in advanced economies, we did the research here for the US and Europe. The biggest increase we expected to see in the occupations that you see on the slide. You see at the very top is occupations that require technological skills, software developers. Then followed by that, we see roles that do not necessarily require, that are technological skills, but more of the higher cognitive and social and emotional skills. So a customer representative role, a sales representative role. These are types of roles that will grow because of how the nature of the economies will evolve. Then again, if you see the fourth role, it's again technical, a role that requires technological skills like computer analyst. And then the remaining ones are in the category of management. You have management analysts, operations managers, roles that will also increase because there will be a need for more of those because of the changing economic structure. That's so these are, let's say, the good news and the opportunities that somebody entering the labor market would be for somebody entering the labor market would be helpful to be aware of. Then at the same time, we have estimated which occupations are at the highest risk of seeing a significant decline in the number of hours worked, which means the number of people employed in that occupation. So, and these are also equally good to know because this would be what we call occupations at risk. So being in this role would put this at risk of automation, and that would mean for those currently in those roles at risk of losing those jobs and needing to move to different roles. So the biggest roles that we see going down in terms of numbers of people employed are those involved basic cognitive and physical skills. So office clerks, tailors, secretaries, we see these types of roles going down. Anything related to back-end function like word processor and typist, bill and account collectors. These are also types of of roles where most of the activities could be automated. Hence, the number of people in the role are expected to go down. So then, if we talk about the disruptions, what is it that what will this mean in terms of what will the future of work trends mean? We talked about automation. We see that automation is something that will have basically maybe low impact for now for the Middle East on displacement and job creation, but will have high impact in terms of for any role knowing having tech skills. So because technological skills will grow as something that many occupations will need to use and have many more than today. Then the second trend around digitization, here we see that this is an important for the MENA region, especially for some countries, because if digital skills are lacking, then for many roles, those people who lack digital skills will not be suitable for many more roles than today. And then that puts both the existing workers at risk, and also that becomes then a key criterion, having digital skills for future job entrants that seek to go into those roles. Then what we also see as trends is basically online platforms for job search. We also hear basically this is something that will have high impact in the future in terms of how job seekers find jobs. So therefore, this trend is also going to have important implication of future job seekers in terms of what will be their path to their job and how to be aware of using these platforms to make sure that you identify the right opportunities. Finally, entrepreneurship is another important trend because the changes, the automation and other technological changes are creating more opportunities for entrepreneurs because the cost of entry in many sectors is becoming lower. This is one area where the MENA region seems to be relatively well positioned in terms of the entrepreneurial energy, entrepreneurial interest. It's relatively high, which is helpful for those who want to basically create a career by starting something on their own rather than seeking for a job as an employee. So now the last section will be forward-looking. We will talk about what would be the skills required and how to best position yourself for the future labor market. So we did some surveys, or we've this is not a survey we did. Previous work was for us. This is a survey that we found that showed that many of the youth are actually ill-prepared for the changes that are coming in the labor market, meaning not fully cognizant of the changes and the relative importance of those changes that are coming. And these are some of the key, what you see on the slide, some of the key numbers that we found. So if we think about the priorities for you as future labor market entrants, there are two areas to have in mind. One, the skills and attitudes required, and two, the knowledge areas required for the jobs of the future. And I'll speak briefly on both just to give you an idea of what these entail. So as I mentioned earlier, some skills will be needed or demanded way more in the future labor market, and others will be demanded much less. So on those that are going to be demanded much more, those are basically the ones with the rows with a blue color. Here, this gives you a sense of what those skills are. I talked about the categories earlier. Now let's talk about what these skills mean. So if we say technological skills, there will be a significant increase in the demand of technological skills. What do those mean? Those mean knowing programming, having data analytical and math skills, knowing engineering, design, now technology engineering and design, not in general. Also, scientific R&D, doing research in this area also falls under technological skills. So these are types of skills that would be in growing demand in the future, and having those skills means would be better positioned for the future roles. Just briefly on the other extreme, what are some of the things that will not matter as much as before? What are the types of skills that are being less demanded? When we talked about basic cognitive skills, what does that mean? Anything, for example, related to data input and processing, manual inputting, filling out, be it Excel or other softwares with data from paper to computer. That, given that everything will be digitized, will not be needed much in the future. We see a significant decrease, 30% decrease in the number of hours, meaning number of workers in this area in the future. So this is, I think, we're not going to go into every row, but just to be important, would be important to know within those categories of skills that are growing in demand and going down in demand, it's important to be aware what are the precise skills that would be required, and then to have those skills that are going to be high in demand will increase the likelihood of landing the job you're looking for. So then the second aspect is knowledge area. So skills are general, let's say, capabilities. Knowledge areas are more like things where you have let's say, content knowledge and ability to find knowledge that would be relevant for the work. And there are 5 knowledge areas. You see them on the slides of financial, civic literacy, work readiness, digital literacy, and health literacy. And these are going to be all important aspects of what you bring to the job. And having these types of knowledge would make employees better positioned for their for the future labor market, or job seekers better positioned for the future labor market. So digital literacy is one important knowledge area where there is going to be a significant growth in demand in the future, given all trends of digitization. So we expect that a 60% increase in the number of hours spent by employees using digital literacy. This is a projection by 2030. So this is a major increase, and that's something that would be important to have in the future labor market. Now, what does digital literacy mean? So digital literacy as a knowledge area involves 3 things: digital fluency, software, and digital systems. And then under each of these, we have different elements that would define that knowledge. So, for example, digital fluency. We have 3 elements. One of them is digital fluency, means knowing popular software and accessing digital services, including interacting with AI. So that's something that would be very common across a number of occupations, having this basic digital fluency. Then for some occupations may require data management. What does data management mean? Data management needs understanding how data creation, collection, ingestion, manipulation, meaning management of the data, works. And this would mean knowing the software packages that perform this function. It also means having the knowledge around how to manage these processes, irrespective of the software function, irrespective of the choice of software. So this slide shows these types of other elements that would be important elements of having digital literacy in the future. Now, in terms of types of skills for the future related to digital literacy, here are some examples of skills that fall within that the framework that I talked about earlier. So as I mentioned, AI, knowing how to interact with AI. Doesn't mean knowing how to create AI. It means how to interact with AI. Cloud computing, data management, knowing how to use cloud computing. So for each of these types of skills, there are ways today to build those that skill set. There are courses, there are different offerings, especially today, that go beyond the formal learning system that allow anybody, be it an employee or a job seeker, to go deeper into developing these skills. And these are some best practices of what it means, how to build these skills. So the more practical this skill development is, meaning anchored in real life rather than academic, the better. The more personalized it is, the better, etc. These are some examples of ways to acquire those skills. And now some examples at the end, just to show how other countries are basically putting together programs to create these types of skills, and beyond that, to match then the skills with the new demand. This is an example from New York, where basically there was a partnership between the government, employees, and academic institutions to, on one side, help the job seekers, meaning the students, develop the skills that the employees need, especially digital skills and other skills that were important for the jobs that were being created, and then helping those students to put them in touch with to do basically matchmaking and put them in touch with the companies that were seeking for those skills. And this was a very successful project because of the scale and because of the ability to help students create jobs. Another example of how other countries are helping job seekers and employees have the skills that the market requires. Singapore has a program called Future Credit Program. It basically, Singapore gives a credit, like a voucher, to every individual, is 25 years of age or older, to invest in upskilling and to attend courses that will allow them to acquire the skills that the future labor market is looking for. And this program has been running for a while and has been successful in helping the transition, especially of those who are moving out of jobs that are less demanded into jobs that are more demanded. If we now go back from the global examples to the UAE, we see that the UAE's long-term strategy, the Centennial Plan 2071, has this focus on building the education that's required for the future knowledge economy. So the plan both aims to create a knowledge economy where those skills that I was talking about would be even in more demand, and at the same time aims to provide the right education for the youth to be able to reap the benefits of working in that knowledge economy. So I will stop here. I hope you found this presentation useful, and now I'm really keen to hear any questions from the audience.
Thank you for the presentation and great insights, Borko. I personally believe that youth need to be aware of the challenges to be able to put plans forward to overcome them. Quoting your presentation, we are at a time where COVID-19 has further accelerated the pace and scale of automation. It is said that by 2025, the capabilities of machines and algorithms will be more broadly employed than in previous years. The skills that employees will need to perform their roles effectively will change, and that the future of work, in part due to automation, technology, and globalization that we are seeing today more than ever before will pose the greatest threat to labor market stability. Thank you for great insights to help our youth understand the direction that the labor market is headed towards. We have received 2 questions from the audience that I will channel to you. The first is, what can youth do before entering the labor market to be most prepared for the opportunities? And the second question we have is, what jobs are likely to be most in demand in the UAE in the coming few years?
Clear. So let's start with the first question. Thank you very much for this. What can you do? So I mentioned that we have a good view on what will employers ask in the future labor market. And we talked about the types of skills that employers will ask more of and the types of skills that will be less important. So then for an individual, if I were, let's say now in my student days, I would ask myself through my formal education, which of these skills that are high in demand have I acquired to an extent that I feel are sufficient to be competitive in the labor market? And what are the skills that I can further build on, where I can go beyond what the formal education is providing to be even more equipped or better equipped with these skills that are going to be high in demand. And then I would find ways how to invest in basically building those skills. As I said, today's learning opportunities are much higher than, let's say, 10 years ago. Why? Because we have programs that are offering online, we have MOOCs, we have NGOs, we have that offer capability building, we have government programs that offer capability building beyond the formal education. So finding what those are and then signing up for those skills that you would be most interested in having, because that's where you would like to build your career. For some, it may be a technological skills. For others, it will maybe skills related to, let's say, social or emotional skills, because you want to go into a sales job. So that would be what I would do if I were in the students. I would go beyond my formal education and try to expand my skill set by where needed, by looking into other opportunities outside the education system.
The next question that we have from the audience is about, in your opinion, what jobs are likely to be most in demand in the UAE in the coming few years?
Great question. And to answer this question, one would need to look at where is the UAE economy heading. So which sectors of the economy are basically priority growth sectors for the government, for the businesses themselves, and then what types of jobs these sectors offer. So if we look at UAE's strategic direction, beyond the Centennial Strategy, even the short-term priorities for the UAE are to accelerate the creation of the knowledge economy. So what does that mean? To accelerate the growth in sectors such as the tech sector, and to become even a bigger hub for tech startups and tech large companies, not just startups, within the MENA region. Other knowledge-based sectors are R&D, and this is also another priority area for the economy. Advanced manufacturing is also another area where we would expect to see growth. The UAE just announced a week or two ago a very ambitious industrial strategy that focuses towards the advanced industrial sectors. So these are the types of jobs which we would then, jobs in these industries, we would then expect to see more in demand, and what those jobs are. So when we talk about, let's say, advanced industries, then here engineering jobs would be would be in demand. If we're talking about the tech industry, then the types of jobs that would typically be in demand would include programming, coding, computer engineers, etc. So these are just some of the types of jobs where we would expect to see growth given the plans of the UAE government and the UAE economy.
Thank you so much, Borko, for your presentation and insights. It's always a pleasure to have you with us, and wishing you a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much for your time, Borko.
Thank you, Razan. I also wish you and everybody a successful rest of today.
Thank you.